There is so much indoctrination in our society, especially from religious organizations, that tell people this is how you ought to be, and anything that's other than this is evil and wrong. And I think it's a crying shame that our minds are shackled by this type of stuff from day one, as soon as we're born. Understanding indoctrination can really, really free you if you struggle with religious trauma syndrome and the complex ongoing effects of being indoctrinated as a child. I hope through this episode with Trevor Popeman, host of Believe It or Not podcast and Believe It or Not on YouTube, we can encourage you together to think critically so that you can feel strong and empowered by your beliefs and not chained down and burdened by the beliefs of those who told you what to believe. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Let's Keep Talking. Please don't forget to rate the show. It really, really helps out. Take awesome conversations like these and connect them with more people like you. What is indoctrination?
What is indoctrination? That's a good question. I think it's being raised with being told what to think instead of how to think. I think that's the biggest thing for me. You have to believe this as opposed to here are some tools to best get you through life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%, man. The definition of indoctrination as it stands currently is the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically.
Yep, that's exactly right.
The uncritically part is the one that really stands out, really for inspiration for this conversation, is the process of being told, like you said, what to think.
Yeah.
And not shown how to think. It's like our mental health is something that's getting more and more attention nowadays. Maybe it's because there's a lot of aspects to our life that are challenging our mental health. But there are really important components to understanding how to navigate the cognitive world in a way that's really healthy. I hope that we can talk about some of those today. The topic of indoctrination being to have someone accept a set of beliefs uncritically is kind of wild.
It's wild. And it's like it's wild to think of how, like, when you're raised in an indoctrinated world, like how much that just carries through, and how much you just took for granted as this is fact and this is the way it is and this is how I'll always understand it, kind of thing, where it just becomes almost part of who you are, this like belief system or whatever it is, however you were indoctrinated, how it just seeps into everything in your life. Yeah.
And this is something that is I was raised Christian. I know that you were raised Christian. Mm-hmm. This is something that exceeds even that. It's indoctrination being brought up in any type of dogmatic religious belief structure, authoritarian belief structure that says this is the world you live in, and this is what you're going to believe. And it's really tough, man, coming out of that, growing up and getting the opportunity to start to question the things that you were taught and the premises that they sit on. It can be a little bit difficult. It can be even traumatic, but one illustration that I thought about when I was chewing on the word indoctrination, I thought like, good old indoctrination. What is this like? And the uncritical part stepped out to me a lot, and I thought, and I think this would be really helpful for the listeners, indoctrination would be like having an honor system TSA at the airport. You can walk through with whatever shape, size bag or suspicious piece of equipment that you want and just go, I'm good, man. And you would say, okay, and let them in. And that wouldn't be good, man. Shit would start to slip by you. And our listeners, for anyone who's began the process of going like, oh man, maybe religion, sorry, I had a hair in my mouth. Maybe religion or spirituality is a resource for me. Maybe there's the opportunity to grow as a person and my ability to love and to be empathetic and compassionate and connect, and this like follow the rules, the basic instructions before leaving Earth, that kind of thing. I don't know that this really serves me that well, and so for people that are in that place, you need to begin to develop logical fallacy detectors
Yeah.
and biases scanners and somewhat of an emotional screen that begins to reduce the ability for information to be accepted purely on tone
Yeah.
or conviction, which is
Yeah.
a lot of what it's like growing up, you know,
Yeah.
in this process.
Oh yeah.
We
Like,
need to learn to accept things uncritically, man.
yeah. Yeah.
Or critically, I mean.
Critically, yeah, exactly. Like it's funny how it manifests too. Like, sorry, I was thinking about recently about how when I was first kind of deconstructing my faith, and I started like looking into science and looking into things that I just wasn't allowed to look at before, and like I was always told evolution, that's not true. Just dismiss it. So I was looking into it and I was just finding really cool, really interesting things. And I was chatting with my friend about it, and he was telling me these cool facts about how the lungs work and why they evolved to work that way. And I was just like fascinated. And then my friend was there, and all of a sudden, like my other friend, and he just stood up angry and stormed away. And I couldn't figure out why. And it was because like that was his defense mechanism for so long, was like, if these things are being talked about, you get out, because that's the work of the devil. And it's like, that's not critical thinking at all. That's just kind of like, you know, this is the fact, we're moving on from this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's established fact.
How do you begin to, like, I'm still so recently out of I mean, it's probably been 8 years or so, but I still have family, friends. I still live in a city that practices religion in a way that has been taught to them. I mean, I'm a spiritual person, and I'll even pop into church from now and again just for something to do on a Sunday morning. But there's a different no one's telling me what God is. No one's telling me what religion is. I have a filter in my brain that says, that's kind of bullshit, or you know, gay people are going to hell. I don't know about that. Men are superior to women. I don't know about that. Like these concepts that are kind of baked in. How does somebody begin to find those deeply held, almost automatic reactions, like your friend that just is like, well, we're out of here, I'm out of here? And how does someone begin to approach those things because that's where the freedom is like that. In that moment, that's where you can begin to say, like, just slow down and breathe. It's okay, it's just information.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's hard because it's like, I don't know how to tell that guy that it's just information. But on the other hand, that's what it took for me. It was like, for me, it's like, well, it's just information. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Then we'll find that out by looking at it. If it's not wrong, then it's really interesting stuff. If it's true, then it's not going to destroy the truth, because truth is the truth, right? Like, it's, for me,
That's
it
right,
was like these big like things I had to wrestle with. And I think a good example, and this is like, I don't know if you'll get to the same conclusion as me, but like, I was a picky eater when I was a kid. Like, I just would not eat any green vegetable. Only corn or carrots were the only vegetables I would eat. And just like, I had these dumb rules in my head that, I do not like these things. And when I was in my 20s, like, I'd be at a dinner or whatever, like, I don't like that food, and I just wouldn't eat it or whatever. And then eventually I realized, like, wait a second, do I not like this stuff? Is it really that I don't like these foods? Or did I just tell myself that when I was a kid and I've stuck with it? So I just started introducing new foods into my diet, trying new things, and then trying them again till I got used to certain things. And I just had to make that personal realization that, I need to break these habits. And it was a simple thing like what food you eat, but I think that kind of applies to just life when you have these things just stuck in your head.
Yeah. And at some point, you probably looked at a friend eating some type of green, or some situation that the green presented itself, or you're like, that thing looks good, or or you were sitting there and you realized that, like, there wasn't the conviction of personal belief behind you were saying that I don't eat greens. You were just like, I just keep saying this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I had one, man, where that's funny. I had one just like that. And this is gonna make me sound like a horrible person, but I always said I hated dogs. I always said that growing up, and I don't like people bring a dog around. I wouldn't get excited about it. Everybody else would be like, oh look at do, and I was like, fuck that dog. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to talk to that dog. And it was kind of this like, tough guy persona. And then I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 18 or so, maybe 17, when someone brought in a dog, and I just felt myself get really excited, and I was like, oh my God, look at that dog. And then one of my friends was like, Braxton, like you don't like dogs. And I was like, shut up. This dog's adorable. And
Yeah.
I realized really quickly over the next few dog exposures that my mom's allergic to dogs. And so I was never able to have dogs growing up. And so
Yeah.
I was never able to pet dogs growing up because
Right.
I'd bring home the whatever the allergies or whatever the dandruff, I don't know,
Yeah.
that the dog has. And so I kind of was like, I don't fuck with dogs. I'm not friends with
Yeah.
dogs. And then turns out I love dogs.
Yeah.
It's just my mom didn't like dogs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have a
there's a
similar thing
microcosm
with
of the entire
cats,
experience.
so. And now I have the best cat in the world, so.
It's like there's a process, there's an inspiration of sorts for people in this journey. I'm not here this morning to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't believe.
Yeah.
But what I do hope is that people can feel inspired that there is a moment when when you're echoing beliefs and echoing echoing beliefs from your own mouth that you don't know if you would agree with.
Yeah.
If given the chance, given the opportunity to change those. And sometimes it's the moment where you say, I hate dogs, or I don't like green beans. And you go like, I don't really even feel that in my body when I say that. I kind of just say it. Maybe that's not necessarily true. Maybe it's a different reason. I mean, for me, it was having a really challenging sexually repressive that gave birth to this sexually obsessive type addictive lifestyle. And I thought, this isn't healthy. Like me holding up these ideas and supporting this ideology that outside of marriage, any sexual energy is sinful and shameful. That whole belief structure in that category is causing me to have this really unhealthy addictive relationship. That was my first unhooking from the boat. The first unlatch was going like, if I accept myself as a sexual being, my relationship with this thing becomes no longer compulsive as much in nature. And it just becomes kind of, I don't know, me being a sexual person.
Yeah.
What's going on here? I feel like I just unhooked something that wasn't even that strongly, supported. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What I was going to ask, here's one really cool thing that I would like to bring to the conversation. If indoctrination is like having an honor system TSA type situation, and things slip by you, because you're not critical, and hey, no one's to blame you. You're 5 years old, duh, you're being told what it is, and hey, that's what it is, baby.
Yeah.
But what kind of unhealthy, really, really painful and really, really heavy beliefs and ideas slip through when we aren't thinking critically? What do we end up with?
Yeah, I think, with the sexual stuff, I think one of the things too is judging people who have a different approach to sexuality and a different approach to how they live their lives. I think a lot of times we think of these like rules and stuff as for us, but we don't always think about how it affects how we view other people. And I think that's a huge thing too. And just things like, I don't know. I'm just stuck on like the whole like sexuality thing stuff. But like, I had a friend who, years out of the church. I mean, still like, still spiritual or whatever, but still like years out of the church. and just all of a sudden said cohabitation before marriage is always wrong. And just like, why? How did you get there? Like, why do you think that? Is this just a holdover from the way you were raised, or is there actually something to it? And I think like a lot of times, yeah, that kind of critical side of it isn't always there when it's just something you're always raised with, like, or always have believed. Yeah.
Why is it so hazy and dark and unconscious, that response? I mean, it's like it's hard to approach that. What do you mean cohabitation before marriage is wrong? You know?
Yeah.
What do you fucking mean? It's wrong. What are you saying? It's not. It's wrong. You know, like, hey, buddy, I'm not murdering you.
Yeah.
I don't have a knife. No guns are out.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like, maybe, and of course you wouldn't want to press if someone has that kind of response, but you know, I'm just wondering why do you feel like it sounds to me like you're defending something more so than believing it yourself or telling me about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like you gotta, you just have to take that step back and like, why do I have and they had stats, they had like things that they believed were statistical reasons why you shouldn't be with somebody or live with somebody before you're married, but they're all one-sided. Where are those studies from? Like but sometimes we do find reasons to believe what we just already believe. And
that's right. And that's rationalization in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. Starting
with your conclusion and just grabbing anything you can to substantiate in any way what you believe.
Yeah.
That fear, man.
Yeah.
That fear right there. Oh, it's like one of the hardest, most impenetrable defenses of this idea, of the ideas in the Christian church and any other religion, for anyone else that's listening that wasn't raised Christian, and you're trying to break through these things and you wonder, why do I feel this feeling of I can't approach these beliefs that I have? Because when a belief is your own, it's relatively open. It's relatively on display.
Yeah.
You've crafted it yourself. You're proud of it.
Yeah.
You like it, you know? Yeah. When a belief isn't your own, it's defended. It is something you have to kind of bare your teeth at if someone approaches, because you don't even know how it works.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even know how this thing is. You haven't even really looked at it much yourself.
No. Yep.
You know?
And I haven't so often, when I get in discussion with people online, how like they have an opinion and then they're just Googling away, just finding reasons and copying and pasting reasons. Yeah.
And exactly. And the biggest, strongest, darkest line of defense that I think shields, and again, I think if you are listening to this and you've started this process of seeing spirituality and religion as something that can help you and grow you as a person, and you've got these beliefs that are like, they have these guard dogs of unapproachability. You don't feel like you can, someone brings it up and you feel triggered in a conversation and you want to defend them so harshly. Yeah. I think that it's because one of the core fundamental things you begin to learn when being raised in this environment is that there is one way to do things. There is one good way.
Yeah. And
if anything or anyone is trying to persuade you otherwise, they are, drum roll please, Satan.
Yeah.
It's the devil. It's evil itself, clawing at, pulling you away from the beautiful truth of our doctrine. When you believe that, if that gets in through your TSA system, if that sneaks in, you are in trouble, man. I mean, if you believe that, if you're being raised and your parents teach you that a certain kind of person with a certain kind of lifestyle is bad.
Yeah.
That's, okay, that's not the greatest thing to learn, maybe, but in some degree we all learn our parents' prejudices and their experiences and traumas and whatnot. But if the biggest one gets through, that is this is right, and if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, they are the literal personification of evil coming for your soul.
Yeah.
That's a reason that I think that's the reason that these beliefs are unapproachable in a lot of ways for so many people, is because it's simply rooted in fear.
Yeah.
It's rooted in scary.
Yeah. And as somebody who personally like has dealt with social anxiety and just general anxiety disorder, like having that added layer of fear, like added from the way I was raised, I don't think it helped. Personally.
There's a verse in the Bible, and look, I am not one to shit on the Bible. There's great things in the Bible that I still, to this day, find a lot of inspiration in. I don't think it's a historical document. I think it's more of a poetry thing. But there's a verse in the Bible that says, stay alert, because the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking to devour and destroy. And that doesn't help someone who has anxiety.
No, it does not. It really doesn't.
You're like stay on your toes, man, because the literal deity of evil is lurking, waiting to take you at your moment of weakness. You're like, Jesus, I was just trying to watch some porn, man. My bad.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So let's just for the sake of organization.
Yeah.
Let's compile a list of things. I have a couple things that I listed down that are some of the ideas that sneak by us when we're not thinking critically, because you're not thinking critically as a child. I want to suggest that part of being an adult, your responsibility, especially if you're going to have children, is to take inventory of what you believe and see what you can substantiate. Mm-hmm. See what you can reason your way to, and see what things are just, see even which things are held in this very charged fear. What things can you not approach?
Yeah.
Take inventory kind of thing. Some of the things that I have listed down here on my notes of harmful effects. When we aren't accepting things critically, what unreasonable things can slip by as unchecked. A couple things that I've listed down is mental illness is the devil trying to attack me or tempt me. Yep. That's a really interesting one. The second one is probably the one that I think is the worst, at least for me. I would imagine anyone who resonates with it. I am by nature doomed to hell and shameful.
Yeah.
These are things that if you watch with your eyes what's going on, you see. And again, I do not mean to be disrespectful. All respect people and the religions they hold dear. This is my experience, and I think a lot of people probably share it, and so this is probably helpful for them. When you watch what's going on in some churches, there's a lot of smiling faces and happy faces.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positivity and celebration, but make no mistake about it, the message at its core, one of the concepts you have to agree with is that you, my friend, Trevor, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, my friend, but you are at your core wretched, shameful, and doomed to eternity and suffering. Yeah. But good news for you, we recently released Jesus Christ. You can buy now.
That's exactly what it is. Most people have some anxiety. Most people have some depression. Most people have some fears, and people take advantage of that, and they're selling their solution. And it took me way too long to realize that. Yes, there's something wrong with me, but it's something that can be worked on. And there's meds that I can take. There's therapists that I can talk to. There's solutions here on earth for the problems.
It's not like this. It's not so much it's not a spiritual battle for you. Yeah. You're like, I could see if you guys want to fight the whole devil and God but I just started taking Prozac. I feel fine, Yeah. I started sleeping a little more. I feel good.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. I just want to list these out so we have them at least in the word bank for us to toss around.
Yeah.
The other one, I don't know what's best for me. I don't know what's best for me. That the heart is wicked and the mind is deceitful.
Yeah.
You don't know. I know. God knows, and I know what God knows, and I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
Men are superior to women. That is very hard to miss if you have gone back to church after leaving the church and done some soul searching. You'll hear that message very clearly.
Yeah.
Men are superior to women. Authority is to be obeyed without question.
Yeah.
Without question. And then the last two things that I have written down here are black and white thinking. We touched on that a little bit earlier. I do feel like I understand black and white thinking, kind of,
Yeah.
but I do have a hard time putting words to it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is shameful feelings about sex.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. It's funny because like a lot of these things you're taught and then reality doesn't match up, but you find ways to justify it. I don't know, like the men are superior to women. That's not my experience. like, like I've had way more better bosses that are women than are men. That's just in my personal experience. Way more often I've had great managers and great bosses that are women than I have had men that are great bosses. That's just one example.
Yeah.
And it's but when you're told that, I mean, I grew up in a church that did have women pastors and stuff, so there probably was a little more like leeway and stuff there, but there's still underlying prejudices and sexism even in a world like that, and that you're raised in it and you have to tweak that dial in your brain. So
Yeah, that you start to have experiences that don't match up what you were taught. What you just said is really beautiful, man. That's like exactly, those are the moments that are the chance for you to take a breath and check in with yourself and say, wait, like I'm with my eyes and my ears and my nose, I'm sensing and I'm experiencing reality.
Yeah.
And it and our mind, take no mistake about it, our mind, it co-creates our reality. It's suggesting concepts all the time about who we are and how people perceive us and what's the story going on right now. And you have stories about people that you're taught growing up. You have stories about lots of things. Let's say people for specificities. You have stories about people, and then those people pierce those stories in your moments with them, and you go, like, I thought you guys were bad, you know, and they're like, what do you mean? And you're like, I don't know. I just thought you guys were bad. I thought you were all going to hell. You know, I learned that the way you live makes you a horrible person. Those moments, those are the moments you have an option. You have a choice. You can either double fucking down. And if you're angry, I would suggest that maybe you've doubled down.
Yeah.
If you feel this on guard defensiveness, I would suggest that maybe you've doubled down.
Yeah.
You can double down, or you can soften up a little bit.
Yeah.
And begin to approach the thing that is contradicting your reality.
Yeah.
I feel like in my belief structure, I've learned that this is wrong, or these people are wrong, or this isn't how it should be. But right now, it feels right.
Yeah.
And you have, that's the chance that you have to begin to soften and break up some of these concrete beliefs that you've formed as a child.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I posted something on TikTok a couple weeks ago just about frustration with the housing crisis in Canada. And I'm in Canada. And somebody commented something negative about immigrants, and which is always the first go-to. I find a lot of people, whatever's wrong in the world, it's the immigrants. Even when it was the Bears, it was the immigrants. and it's like it's so nice in our mind to have scapegoats. It's so nice to have these people that we were raised to believe they're the problem. If there's any issues in the world, it's these people. It's in a way, it's nice to have that because then you don't have to actually deal with issues. You know, when you automatically believe this person's bad, this group of people is bad. Sorry, I'm just gonna. Then yeah, it can be. It's like this cheat code in life to have these
Yeah.
preconceived ideas, but once you start wrestling with that, like, yeah,
You, you have you have these elementary understandings that you know might have been helpful in some regard growing up.
yeah,
You know, maybe quickly your parent says, those people are bad people, or
yeah,
those people are we don't hang around with those people, and you know, but the world, this is a tough one.
yeah,
The world isn't bad people and good people,
yeah. No, it's not. It's
and
really not.
it's not right religions and wrong religions,
Yeah,
and it's not right politics and wrong politics.
yeah,
It is something other entirely, and I won't even attempt to put a label on what it is,
yeah,
other than it's something gray. It's something, a mixture. It's something that you could understand if you're willing to sit long enough with reality.
yeah, yeah. It's like I used to work at a convention center, and like in Toronto, it's the biggest convention center in Toronto, so you get a lot of different groups of people. Because like I was working in a coffee shop, but in the convention center, and so just every day would be a different type of group of person, which is a weird. That's not typically what you get in retail, but
Mm,
so like we would have one day where it's a wedding convention, so it's all new brides. So we're
mm.
getting ready to make the vanilla lattes or whatever. Like, um, and and this was at the time when I'm just really struggling with my own religion. I'm still Christian in my head, but I've torn everything down. Like I'm telling
Mm.
myself I'm a Christian, um, but I'm angry, and I'm just like angry. I felt like I've been, lied to, and this Muslim convention comes in, and I'm on defense because I hate religion right now. Like I'm still Christian, but I hate religion, and
Mm.
it's busy, and it's like I don't know what other negativities were in there, but I'm just like in an angry. Religion's bad. Religion's hurting people. These people are bad people, kind of thing. And I'm just like so stressed and dealing with other
Wonderful
things.
mantras.
What? Yeah,
Wonderful mantra to start your day off.
exactly. And it's like I'm dealing with few problematic people, and I'm just stressed, and just this older gentleman from the convention just like sees that I'm stressed and just takes time out of his day to just chat with me and like make sure I'm okay, and make sure that the people in the convention weren't being awful. And it was just this moment of like extreme kindness from somebody that had a different worldview than me. And I had these prejudices set up in my head that this was going to be like a stressful time and people were going to be awful. And it was just this like moment of kindness that like made me realize that like whatever ideas you don't believe in, don't dismiss the people who have those ideas, like whatever it is, whatever, yeah. And it was just like this powerful moment for me of like, oh yeah, I had these preconceived ideas about what religion did to people and how religion made people act, and it was based on my own experience with certain people, and I just put that out there.
And that's awesome, man. Having that moment with that gentleman that pulled you aside is a moment with reality
Yeah.
where God or the universe or some wonderful lineup of events gives you a poke in the forehead and says, "Hey, Trev, can you quit being a dick?" Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's the world's not, everyone's not horrible. Yeah, we know that you suffered some, that you experienced some pain from the way that you experienced religion, but these are human beings that you are getting the opportunity to interact with and give them morning caffeine, and like, it's not all that bad. Those moments, man, are really beautiful when you get to see reality, when you get to see God. In my mind, that's when you get to see God, is reality itself. The moment for me that I think really changed my direction in life in a large way was I had met a new friend of mine, and we were hanging out for one of the first times ever, and we had just finished up a workout. We were sitting in a sauna, and we were just talking about life, and they were really honest and vulnerable about some of the struggles that they were facing at this time.
Yeah.
And one of those was the way that their family was treating them because of their sexuality.
Yeah.
And this was someone that I had known and had a very light friendship with, but this was one of the first times we were really hanging out one-on-one. But I just felt my heart for this person start to soften and melt. I was like 18 or so, and I had been raised in a church up into the last, maybe 6 months or so. I had really been a church head.
Yeah.
And I was like, I saw someone experience the pain of the mistreatment, of being told that you are wrong, who you are is shameful.
Yeah.
And I saw that breaking them, and it was like, in a moment I was like, hey man, fuck all this, like, it's all okay. Like, all that we're just guessing. We don't even know. Like, no one shook hands with God this year and got an autograph. Like, that's just a guess, man.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing your pain. I'm seeing reality right now. And I can touch you. I can physically touch you and feel you. Someone experiencing the pain from upholding these ideological beliefs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a reason, when you experience those moments, maybe that's a reason to begin to change with it.
Yeah. And like, for me, I don't use the term God. I don't use it but I mean, I get where you're coming from, but like, for me, it's like just the power of people, like the power of kindness and the power of two people interacting, having that realization together, I think is so strong. And I think is so life-changing. Like, I think just like seeing somebody's humanity and getting past those preconceived, indoctrinated ideas is huge. Like, I think that's,
You definitely experience a more beautiful world.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
What was it? How has undoing the beliefs in your mind that don't make any sense to Trevor, how has unindoctrinating yourself and allowing reality and interactions with people to change you, how has that caused you to flourish and experience beautiful life, Trevor?
Yeah. Well, okay. So we've talked a bit about sexuality, and like, I'm asexual. So, which took me.
It broke up right when you said that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm asexual. So, or demisexual or demi-romantic, kind of in that thing. So basically, I've never been in a relationship. I've never had a strong desire to be in a relationship. It's just never been something that I wanted. But growing up, that meant I was wrong and defective. Like, it was good in youth group when they said, don't do sex stuff, because I'm like, check, don't want to, I'm good.
Pure as can be, baby.
Yeah.
Pure, baby.
The snow is white. But like, but then as I'm an adult and everybody's like, when are you gonna settle down? When are you gonna meet somebody? When are you gonna do this? And just that, like, what it did to me internally, and what it did to me, like, how I viewed myself as defective, as somebody who like wasn't meeting these standards that I was supposed to meet, wasn't being fruitful and multiplying, all these things that I thought I was supposed to do. When I eventually realized, like you said, that's just stuff that passes through that TSA unchecked. when I was able to just look at myself and ask why I felt this way, um, why I wasn't in a relationship, why I wasn't pursuing that. And I was able to just be like, oh, this is me. This is who I am. And that's okay. Like if I meet somebody,
Oh,
that's fine. But I don't have to. I don't have to like go on awful dates with people I don't want to go on dates with because I have to find the right person. Like it's not, yeah. And I can just be okay with who I am. And that was huge for me.
that is wonderful, man.
Yeah. And it was,
That is so wonderful.
it's a relief. It's like, yeah, just so freeing.
It's so freeing. It's so freeing to begin to accept reality and then begin to accept yourself on life's terms.
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is
Yeah.
okay. It's okay to feel what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Find that in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
Find that scripture for me, man. That's
Exactly.
probably the worst one in my opinion that slides by the old TSA honor system is
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, and what a robbery.
Yeah.
What a fucking crime to detach somebody from their own wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. And being honest with yourself that it's okay not to know things, I think is huge too. Like I feel like
yeah.
when you're raised like, oh, we have all the answers. This is what this means. This is what that means. This is why we feel this way. It's because the devil or whatever. And then
We all got it, all the answers, yep.
yeah. And then eventually just realizing that, yeah, there's things I don't know and I'm okay with that. And that's huge too.
That's a huge one. That's like a really, really good one to sprinkle into just your general consciousness.
Yeah.
Is just like as you're working through finding how you feel, finding what you think about things. One beautiful just thing that expands your awareness is seeing that it's okay not to know. It's
Yeah.
okay not to have an answer. Because when you have to have an answer, you bullshit it. When the timer's up and you got 3 minutes to take the test and there's 3 questions left, you just write something down, you know. And then you get mad at the teacher when they're like, "This is wrong." You're like, "What do you mean it's wrong?"
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Trevor, what are the tools that you would suggest for people, kind of like that would help them in the process of undoing the indoctrination they experience and identifying their core beliefs, what's important to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is to be okay with the unknown, but also start realizing what your interests are that you weren't allowed to be interested in. So for me, it was science. Like for me, it was like exploring the cosmos and exploring how we got here, kind of thing, through the scientific method, and that was really great for me critically. And just like I think it's important to whatever your like kind of sub interest has been that you couldn't really explore, start just dipping your toes in that water. Start like and start asking questions. Start like if you're curious about something, just Google it and read different things about it, or read different articles, find different books about issues. Don't just always, believe what you have to believe and believe from this perspective. Like just open it up a bit.
Yeah, just relax a little bit.
Yeah. And I think critical thinking is really important. I don't know an exact resource, but I think it's good to familiarize yourself with fallacies and with things like logical fallacies, like what to be able to question yourself and like what's a straw man, what's a no true Scotsman, like things like that. Just start looking into that and start with challenging yourself. Don't just start with challenging everybody else. Just challenge yourself and work on that. Like work on yourself first.
And two, like if you believe in God, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in the God of your religion, if you believe that God is a good God or a loving God, then it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
You can sit quietly with a different book, and you can do your own Google search. And if you need to, tell God, say, hey, I have benefited in a lot of ways from my relationship to the feeling of being connected to something that's divine. There are some things that are starting to stir in me that feel painful and they feel untrue.
Yeah.
And I want to, in some way, and this might be weird, but in one way I want to just ask your blessing or your love to like be present throughout the experience of beginning to individualize myself a little bit, and just starting. I mean, it's a gateway drug of sorts.
Yeah.
You start to look at a lot of the things you've believed and go, wow, that's weird. The logical fallacies, man, I think that's a beautiful tool.
Yeah.
A wonderful tool. Critical thinking, I read a book, I think it was called Your Guide to Critical Thinking. It was like a Greater Courses lecture series that was on Audible, probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And it was like, oh my God, this is wild. The stuff that's, like the one that stuck with me the most is an argument from ignorance.
Yeah.
Someone might look out in the world and say, I don't know how all this got here, therefore it must be God.
Yeah.
And you go, if you just take off the ribbon off that and the glitter, it says, I don't know, therefore I know. And that doesn't make any sense. Exactly. And it's not saying that your God doesn't exist necessarily. It's just saying that that's not a reason to believe in one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always, and I can't remember who it was that said it, but there's that old expression, all truth is God's truth. And when I was a believer and I was starting to question things, I think that was one of the biggest things that I would deal with. Like, if God is the ultimate truth, then no truth can separate me from him because he is truth.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that
I had that conversation with the...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't hold that anymore. I have lost my God belief, but
But you see, you're like, all truth is just truth. So it's all good.
Exactly. Yeah.
This might be funny to some people depending on where you're at in the process, but I talked with a friend of mine who is a very, very regular church attending, devout Christian, and he was talking about kind of feeling some staleness in his relationship with God. Yeah. And I said, maybe it's because you're only looking at God through this lens of Christianity and the Bible. Maybe you've toured through the Bible, you've done the devotionals, and you've got the gist. I mean, you've seen this movie, and I said, why not move on to a different one? Why not try some Buddhist practices or, trying some different types of perspectives on God? And I said, or eat some mushrooms. Why not eat some mushrooms? That's a great way to experience some divinity. And I told him, I said, I love God just like you love God. The only difference is I'm willing to eat mushrooms to see him.
Amazing. Perfect.
Yeah. I want to direct a lot of love, man, a lot of like sincere support for anyone for the people that are listening to this, that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It feels scary, and it feels, you're approaching your father's beliefs and the reality of the world. But if anything, just hear me and Trevor too, I think, is echoing the same exact support that you're not going to hell.
Yeah, you're not.
You're not. No. Let's just pretend you're not for a second.
Yeah.
And now feel free to explore. Like, if you just find the switch of fear of hell in your mind, and you could just like take off gravity for a second. If you just take off the fear of hell and the lights come up and you have the freedom to explore and to question, then I think you wouldn't recognize yourself. You wouldn't recognize all these beliefs that you have adopted that other people have given you,
Yeah. And I think there's also that, the fear that you're disappointing God. I think that was a huge one for me too. It wasn't just the fear of hell. It was the fear that, like, if I question things, I'm disappointing God. And I think, I think if we get past that too, that it's really important.
touching on the aspect of indoctrination that is emotional manipulation.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's be afraid. If you want a good image of this, go and watch The Wizard of Oz from the perspective of the church, and go see this old man who kind of pissed his pants a little bit behind a curtain with a giant, scary, talking to tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, in front of it. Yeah. And that, man, is... See, dude, Trevor, my friend, that is the shit. It's like intellectual, things are one thing. Thinking someone's, thinking a group of people's bad and then realizing you can be friends with them, like, oh, that's all fine and dandy. That's great. That's like you're leveling up.
Yeah.
That's growth. But healing is different. Like, you're in your personal sense of you yourself are okay.
Yeah.
That at some point you got scared.
Yeah.
At some point in this process, they scared you.
Yeah.
And no matter how kind the religious leader looked, no matter how big the smile was, no matter how wonderful the after church food was.
Yeah.
They scared you. They scared you, and they made you believe that you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to decide for yourself.
Yeah.
You need their guidance. You need God's guidance.
Yeah.
And God is someone that is speaking to you through this book and this pastor and this leader.
Yeah.
That's the core of it, man, that I feel like if, like, and I know I just said that, but I want to say it one more time, that like growing and my mind opening to a world full of contradiction and darkness and light and beauty and pain. I mean, you take a tab of LSD and look at the sunshine. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But there's another layer of emotional, like you said earlier, Trevor, like a weight that comes off you when you go, I'm asexual. I don't have to do what everyone is insisting that I do. Holy shit. I can just be me.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about an orgasm. You talk about feeling good. You found the feel good.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah. Exactly. I'll drink to that.
You found the feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if there's any other questions I have that I wanted to touch on. If there's something else that you wanted to throw in there, man, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered everything that's on my mind right now, but unless something
cool, man.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I did want to provide as a resource for the wonderful listeners of Let's Keep Talking. How you doing? Love you very much. Please don't forget to rate the show. Is this thought exercise provided by Thurman Trees. Do you know Thurman Trees on YouTube?
No. Do I? It sounds familiar.
Okay, I don't know how to describe the animation. It's kind of like a little bit ominous, abstract, but it's all about psychology, and it's all about stuff kind of like indoctrination.
Okay.
And it's really, really cool.
Okay.
Thurman Trees, TherMin Trees.
Okay.
And there's an episode that he has about indoctrination, and at the end, he gave a wonderful, wonderful thought experiment. So I'd love to close us up with that. Mm-hmm. When you've existed in the echo chamber of your belief structures and so long that they've become internalized, and it's hard to separate yourself from the feeling of needing to defend some of these things that we've talked about.
Yeah. Of
men are superior to women. My sexuality is wrong. I don't know how to believe. Well, that's true, right? Because I'm just a person. What if I decide I want to be a murderer? Can I really just decide for myself? Let's take all that and let's just relax it for a second. Maybe put it through this thought experiment called the veil of ignorance. And the way that it goes is a society that is just is a society that contains a mixture of governing principles, how wealth is distributed, how labor and work is distributed, resources, how people and their positions of power are assigned based on what? Sex, sexuality, gender, family. What are the dynamics that govern a just society? And the way that this gentleman explained it is that if you were to view a potential society that you were going to have to enter without knowing the hierarchical rankings, the way that it's going to play out, who's going to receive what, the biases, the prejudices, this, that, and the other, what kind of world would you be willing to enter in at random? What are the principles of who gets what and how power is distributed and what goes on in there? One of the examples he gave is religion and using indoctrination or not. That let's say there's two different worlds, and in one world, well, in both worlds, there are all the same religions. We have all the religions that we experience here on earth. But in one world, all children are born and indoctrinated into their family's religion, where 90% of the time, that's the religion they carry on for the rest of their lives. They never change their mind. They never get the opportunity to question their beliefs or their religion. Mm-hmm. The other world, with the same religions present, as children are brought up, they are taught critical thinking. They are taught about biases. They're taught about emotional manipulation. They're taught about different religions of the world and their beliefs and their stories and the principles within them. And in this world, they are given the ability to choose which one they would like to follow, if they would like to follow any of them at all.
Yeah.
And the question would be, which one would you rather enter at random?
Yeah. B.
Indoctrination. Yeah, absolutely. B. You would much rather enter the one that you get the option.
Yeah.
Indoctrination. It's part of it is one of the, you might say, oh, religion's bad. Oh, Christianity's bad, or my formal religion of whatever is bad. You know, maybe shake a finger at it if you want, but there are dynamics at play that are harmful, and one of those is indoctrination. And I really thoroughly hope from the bottom of my heart that listening to this episode with Trevor, you've gained some insight on that. You've been able to chew on it a little bit, see it from a different perspective, and I really hope that this has benefited you. So, Trevor, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I really appreciate it. I know the audience appreciates you taking the time early in the morning to hop on the conference and talk about indoctrination.
Thanks so much.
This was fun, man. I really appreciate it. Cool.
Same. Awesome.